Hi everybody, and welcome back to Sew Along with Jan. So in this video, we're going to talk a little bit about working with SVG files with the scan and cut. SVG files are a file that's a common cutting file that a lot of companies use, and they provide them for you, say for embroidery designs and so on. But there's also a lot of crafting companies and SVG artists that make items with SVGs for us to cut. The scan and cut, however, doesn't always play real nice with SVG files because depending on the SVG artist and how they are produced, probably what type of software they use as well, I've noticed that there are some differences when I go to open things up in Canvas Workspace. So we're gonna kind of expound on our basic Canvas Workspace class that we're doing actually tomorrow night. I'm doing this video the night before, and so that we know a little bit more intricate items to take care of some of these SVG files that we're working with. So I did this class. This is the class I did in the store last week, and I know that a lot of you on YouTube and on Facebook asked me if I would do this and videotape it so you would also have some of this information. So we're going to do this in like 3 parts. So the first part is going to be, we're going to be talking about fabric cutting files that are SVGs, which are normally pretty good. So give me a second here. I just got to open up my, notes so I remember where I'm going here. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you, and we're going to be working with these files in Canvas Workspace. I'm going to be using the Canvas Workspace version that is the downloadable version. In the past, I've mostly used the one online, but I found that as I'm working with SVGs, I need a few extra tools, and those tools are not available on the inline or the online version. I have started using the PC version more. So hopefully this will make sense to you. I just want to show you some of the things that I've discovered as I've been working with different SVG files, and why I've kind of shied away from them for some years because I've always had some problems, and you'll see what I found, but I've also found out now how to fix it and how to work with them so that they'll work just perfectly in our scanning cuts. So okay, so give me a moment. I'm just going to share my screen. I apologize. I have to go back and forth a little bit from the camera. So these are some of the items that I've made with SVG files with some of the techniques that I'm going to show you tonight. And I just wanted to show you a few of these things, and I'll show them more to you later as I'm going through them. But I have learned a lot by working with these, and I've learned a lot as a crafter to how to manipulate these so they work better in our scanning cuts. So okay, so give me a moment. I'm gonna have to switch back and forth to I'm gonna share my screen with you, so give me a second here. It looks kind of weird, so I apologize. So if I get rid of this, okay. So now let's go ahead and we're gonna open Brother Canvas Workspace, which is the downloadable version. This will be an icon on your computer. Make sure that you update it. It usually checks for an update when you open it, so hopefully yours will be updated as well. I may have to log in. I can't remember if I've logged in. It lets you log in for about 7 days. And the first thing that opens up is going to be, you know, this project pattern collection. We'll talk about this in another video more fully, but I'm just going to close this for now. And mostly what we're going to talk about in this video is SVG files. So we're going to be using this icon over here on the left quite a bit. So the first thing I want to talk about is cutting fabric. And what I have noticed with fabric cutting, I don't cut like every single piece of fabric that I use with applique. I do the intricate ones more often than I do like, triangles and squares and circles and littler things like that. So I often don't cut everything. But this is the way you would have to cut it if you were doing that. Okay, so let's talk a little bit. So I have to say the fabric cutting people really do a good job about the sizes of things. That's been my dilemma for years, is the size of the SVGs, when they came in, they often were too small. And I'll show you in the next section why. So let's talk about the fabric people. So like for instance, Kimberbell always provides SVGs if there is one for that particular applique. So for me to use an SVG that Kimberbell has provided, I would then go over here to the left-hand side. So hopefully you're able to see that on my computer. I'm going to go ahead and make this just a little smaller. Yeah, it's a little smaller. I think it should be okay. And I'm going to show you this SVG, this little icon that says SVG, and it's import from your computer. And you can also file and then import from your computer there. So it depends on what you like. I usually use a little icon on the left. We're just going to click on that. And this also works with the online version as well. It's the same, basically the same symbol that you would use to bring in your SVGs. So what I find with SVGs is that if you just take it and put it on a USB stick and stick it into your Scan and Cut, the Scan and Cut does not read SVGs as a native file. Our native file is FCM. So the SVG files often come into the machine all in one piece. Like if there's 3 items on the screen, it's only 1 item when it comes up in the Scan and Cut because it will not let me ungroup them. So when you work with your SVG files for cutting fabric, you're going to open them up in your software first so that you can manipulate them, maybe move them around on your screen so that you can get them apart so you can get your fabric up there to cut it. So let's go ahead and just open up one of these. The one that I use a lot to show people, and I also wanted to show you what they've done in this case, is this America Land That I Love, which was a bench pillow video I did some time ago. Now, if you see on the screen right now, America Land That I Love, do you notice that the America is tipped to the side? So I have found that and you also notice that I can move these independently of one another, okay? So what they have done is they have the software automatically, when I opened it up into the software, has brought them up and has separated them so then I can get into each piece and move it around on my screen. Because for instance, maybe my stars are going to be different color than my America, and if I have them all grouped together in the machine, I have to have one great big piece of fabric, which as you can see on the screen right now, very likely I could use smaller pieces of fabric. Or these 2 pieces, then I would want to maybe cut out of a different color. So this way, we always know that everything is going to come in, and then we can move it around, and it unlocks it so that we can do different things with it. But if you look at the America, how it's tilted on the screen, the one thing about the fabric artists that I've found is they are very good about keeping the designs small enough to fit on a 12 by 12 hoop. I know my software gives me the option when I export my cutting file, FCM or SVG, to put it on a 12 by 12 mat. And I notice that the fabric cutting people really do that. Now the paper crafting people, not so much. They do different things with theirs, so I will show you that in the next 2 sections. So as I open this up, see now I can just send this to my machine. It's within, and you notice there was no warnings or anything saying that something's a different size. It just opened up. Now I will tell you that often the items come in with a black fill. And even if there's multiple layers, so you'll see the multiple layer one in the last section. So in this case, everything came in fine. I generally just open these up in my software, and then we can send it back to the machine. So to do that with the software, I will then go File, and I will Export or Transfer FCM File, and then says some of the objects are outside of the red dashed lines. Oh, so I do need to move things around a little bit. So let's just grab these. I think it's this one. It just needs to come down a little bit. So we'll just bring it down a little bit. There we go. Should be okay. All right, so go File, Export, Transfer FCM File, and I can do 3 different things. I can either save it down to my computer as an FCM, because remember it was an SVG before. So basically what we've done is just converted an SVG to an FCM file. And then I could do that, or I could transfer it via the internet. And that's what I'm going to do in this case. So I'm going to go ahead and click transfer via the internet. My software is already set up for my machine that is registered so that I can download it directly to my machine. And we will be talking about that in the basic Canvas Workspace class a little bit. Then when I go over here, so I'm going to switch back over to this other camera for a minute, because I want you to see when I go in here now, I can actually move these around. So give me a second here to switch back. Takes me a minute to get all these little things going. There we go. So when I come back up here to my machine now, and I do retrieve data, and I go to the cloud, because that's where it is. I send it via the internet. Here is my America. Okay, so when I touch this, I'm going to bring it in. Oops. When I touch this now, can you see that it's in different pieces? So I can move each one of these. You probably can't see it too well, but there's a little red line that shows up as I'm touching the different pieces. That way I can move this around and I can do it in multiple colors and so on. And everything came in at the correct size, because there was no warning on my software saying that something was not the right size. Okay, if I take my USB stick, so if you give me a moment, I will put the USB stick in the machine. I forgot to put it in there. Put this USB stick in my machine. If I can reach. Okay. If I were to bring that same design in as an SVG file, if I hit retrieve and it's on the stick, it will read it with no problem. It's in America land that I love. And I was using the 9x14s. And then let's bring in this first SVG. Okay, so here's our design here. I'm going to click OK. But see now, see how it's just in one piece. All of the stars, see the box goes all the way around the whole thing. And if I go to edit and object edit, down here, this little button here is the group ungroup button. And see, it's grayed out. I can't do that. So I can't do any of that. So that's why you need to open it up in your software and send it back to the machine, because basically you're sending the SVG and you're converting it over to a FCM file. And then our machine reads those natively. So then we can do something with it. So it's like this one here would be a little difficult to do something with, because maybe I want this to be one color and these to be another color, and I'd have to try to be careful to get the fabric in the right spot. So it may not work as well. So that's why I just tell people, when you're working with your SVGs, it's better to open it up in your software, make them FCMs and send them back to the machine. You can put them on a stick if you want to, or just send them to the machine one piece at a time. Again, the embroidery companies seem to do a very good job about getting the designs within the 12x12 mat, so you don't have problems with size. So let's go back over here to the computer and I'll show you what would happen if that machine, or if that design that we just brought over was, let's say this design was tipped. This design that we had been tipped this way. And it was outside of the red line. So if I brought that in like that as an SVG, it's going to come up with a warning telling me that it's too large. And what it automatically does, the software does that, and so does the machine. It just says, I'm sorry, we're going to reduce this to a 12x12 mat. So then your designs are the wrong size. So that's what happened to me when I first started using SVG files with my scan and cut, is that, at first we couldn't even use SVG files. It was only FCMs. So they gave us this ability shortly after the original machines came out, but I couldn't figure out why they kept reducing themselves. And at that time, they also didn't tell us that they were reducing it. They would tell us, they wouldn't say anything. It would just show up, and then I'd cut it out and everything was too small. or most of the time too small, because what it was doing was reducing the size of the mat. But I'm very happy with the companies that are doing SVGs for embroidery, because they are being very careful of keeping it inside this 12 by 12 frame that we are working with, and then we don't have problems with the size. So I think they've gotten onto that. Now you are going to find some of the fabric companies that are not going to do this, and they might possibly come in the wrong size. So be aware, as you see the next two sections here, you are going to be seeing are going to be seeing some other designs coming in that are way large, and then they will not be the right size, and some of them wouldn't even cut without me knowing that they were too large to use with. So those of you who are doing, and I will also do this for you, if you give me a second, I'll run back to the camera here and I'll show you my design here that I did. Here's my America that I cut out on the scan and cut from that design, and I just put the little dot dot dot. It's over here. I didn't do the stars. I just did the America. But this is usually what I do when I do SVG files with my scan and cut. Is I usually do stuff that's a little bit more complicated or more intricate. Very hard to trim. This was would be very hard to trim. So I cut it out with the scan and cut. I wanted to show you one other design that I did a whole video on this pillow, and we did it a couple of years ago in the fall that we did. Let me go ahead and start new. And we'll go back and a couple of years ago. Okay, so now it wants me to restart my application. All right, so the other thing I have a little trouble with Canvas Workspace, just so you know, this happens sometimes. This is an online service, and so is the one, you know, on the browser. And so I often, if you have to have internet to use this. And when this happens, I just had to, you know, I just had to restart the software. All right. So let's look. I'm going to put my stick back in my computer again here. Let's go back and let's look also again. To get this from an SVG into our FCM, you simply open this up, click the SVG button over here on the left, import from your computer, or file, import from your computer, okay? And then you go in and you find your SVG. So let's look at this one. This is the one that I did a whole video on, the pillow gathered together, and I did an entire video on cutting the fabric. So we cut like almost all the pieces in the class. So I recommend you go watch that on my YouTube channel. So here's Gather Together. And if I go to, oh, I got to find the right one. Here it is, SVGs, okay? So when these are opened up, again, now I can get into each individual piece. So in the video that I did with these, I opened up all these pieces so that I could gather them by color. And then I knew about how big my pieces of fabric needed to be. And so I go through that whole thing and gather together. So it's one of the Kimberbell bench pillows, but I did a whole class on cutting these with SVGs. So I just used the software. I opened it up, and I might have used the online software actually for that one. But it works the same way. And then I can go up to File, File, and Export, Transfer, and I can either save it back to my computer, I can transfer it via the internet, or I can use a USB cable if I have it hooked up to my scan and cut. So that's the way you would then transfer things from this software. So again, my moral to this little story is most of the time when you're cutting your fabrics, you won't have any problems with your SVGs. Just open them up in the software first, hit the little SVG button, import, and then bring them in, and then you'll be able to save them and send them back to the machine so that they're going to be in the native format, so then you can manipulate them in the machine. If I needed 6 of these, instead of doing it here in the software, you can if you want to. I often just I just do this, I just send these and I send it over to the machine, and then I duplicate and everything right in the machine. Our machine has so many, the scan and cuts have so many abilities that the other cutting machines do not have. So our software maybe not be as robust as some of the other softwares are, but our machines have a lot more capabilities because they have a touch screen, and then they allow us to do a lot of the manipulating, transfer or tracing, everything right on the machine, when most machines only have a power button and a load the mat button and maybe a start button. And so our machines have so many possibilities right on the screen and in the machine. Okay, so that's kind of my first little section here, is working with fabric SVGs. You'll probably not run into too many problems. I use a lot of Kimberbell. The other one that I use is OESD, and they've been very good about keeping everything within a 12-inch mat. Also, like the hoop, or I'm going to say hoop, but mat. And the OESD, that's another one I use a lot. Anita Good Design does not really do SVG files. They may have on some of their newer designs. I haven't done any for a while. But you will find that a lot of cutting, Juju does a lot of SVGs, and they've been pretty good. So you probably are going to be fine cutting your fabric without running into any of these little quirks that I will now show you, as I've been doing more paper crafting and more crafting in general. I have found that things have changed a little bit. All right, so let me go back to the camera. I'm going to show you a couple things. We're going to move on to designs that are too big. So this is what I started working with, some stuff that I really, really like working with, some paper things. And there's a couple different options here. Some of the designs, depending on the paper crafting people, or the SVG artists, I should say. You go back to the other camera here so you can see some of these things. I'll pull the camera down. I've been following some of these people, and some of these designs are so fun to make. So I like these 3D items. Okay, so this one's from jennifermaker.com. This one's from jennifermaker.com. So is this one and this one. These are all three-dimensional things. And of course, you know, our Scan and Cut does all this too. I also been following a gal named craftwithsarah.com, and a lot of her things are three-dimensional as well. But they're very layered, so you can see like this little truck has lots of layers of paper in it, and so does this. So here's some of the things that I've been making and learning about these SVGs, because I've always shied away from these SVGs, and they all saved everything in SVG. So here's a mandala, and this one was all done with SVG. And this one here, and this one here, and this one here, and this one I ran into a little problem. But these here, we're going to talk about these kind of 3D ones first, because I found that these SVG artists, what they're doing is they're creating one design, and they're creating a project. That's a better way to put it, a project, and they're making it one design. So there's only one design for this great big huge project here. And look at all the pieces there are to this, or to this, or to this. And they make them in such a way that they are too large. I mean, and they're an SVG. So if I would just take that and put that in with my USB stick to my machine, my Scan and Cut, it would just reduce it down. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So we're going to talk about, these are Jennifer Maker, and it's just the way they must save their designs. I can't think of anything else, and it's fine, but they're a little different for us as Scan and Cut users. A lot of these gals are Cricut users, and their software thinks differently, so I'll also show you that, because I do actually have the Cricut software on here as well. Okay, so let's go back to to my screen. Oops. Got to hit the right button though. There we go. Okay, so let me share my screen here with you. And I am going to bring in, let's say we're going to bring in that little bunny, the little bunny lantern. This is how I found out that I was having issues with these items. So I'm just going to click File and New. And I'm going to bring in my bunny lantern. So it's on my USB stick over here. So I'll just go to my SVG icon again. And it was a Jennifer Maker design. So we're going to go in here, and it's called Easter, I have to find it, Easter Lantern. There we go. Okay. All right. So there's the SVG. And again, you know, I have these on a USB. If I would put them into my machine, this is what would happen. So I'm just going to pick the bunny one here. And it says, warning, imported SVG was resized automatically to fit within the red dashed line on the artboard. Okay, well, I thought, oh, it must be fine. It was probably just a little too big. It's probably fine. So I tried to cut this, and it wouldn't cut. This item would not cut. And I couldn't figure out why. It must have really been too, you know, a lot bigger or something. So there's a couple ways you can do this. If you're not sure how big something is and you get that warning, there's a couple of free softwares that you can use that will open it in the size it's supposed to be. I'll show you in a minute how ours will do that, but you do have to have an upgrade to do it. So I'm going to minimize this, and I'm going to bring open my Cricut software, because I know the Cricut software will open it up in the size it's supposed to be. And wait till you see how big this design is. All right, so I'm going to go over to the canvas here, which is the design area. And there's a little button down here. You might not be able to quite see it. It says upload. So I'm just going to upload this design, and I'm going to go click upload image. In this case, it's already uploaded because I uploaded it when I taught my classes. So it's actually right here. Here's the bunny right here. So I'm going to click that. I'm going to add it to my canvas. And I'm only doing this because I want to see how big it is, because I couldn't figure out how big it was. You know, it was just telling me it was reducing it, but how big is it? So here is this design, the bunny. And if I go and minimize this a little bit more, you can kind of see it, and look how big it is. So if I go up here at the top, it tells me that it is 36.329 inches tall and 11.25 inches wide. Well, that won't fit on my 12 by 12 mat. It will width-wise, it's okay, but it's way too tall. And if I just put this in to my Canvas Workspace software, it's just going to automatically reduce it, and then I can't do anything with it. It's just too small. I didn't know how big it was. So I discovered there is a way to get around that. You do need to have an upgrade to the software, and what it is that Brother came out with a upgrade called the Vinyl Autoblade Kit. And the Vinyl Autoblade Kit, get out of this software a minute. So we know it's a little over 36 inches. So we're gonna remember that number here. Open it so I can at least see how big it is. Okay. And then let's go back to the Canvas Workspace here. All right, so we're going to get rid of this. This is too small. We knew the one that came in was way too small. So Brother came out with an upgrade for the machine, and it's called the Vinyl Autoblade Kit. But it also gave us a couple of pieces to the software, and it's got a premium function called tiling. And I didn't know what tiling was. What tiling actually is actually for vinyl people that like do a whole big huge window, and then but they don't only have a mat that's like 12 inches wide, so then you can split it up into pieces and then butt it up together so that it can be one like 50-inch piece of vinyl on the window. So we're going to use that today, and it also gives us the opportunity to make a custom mat, and that's why now I figured out how to get around this. So instead of this 12 by 12 mat, obviously it's too small for this particular design. It's not too narrow, it's too short. And even if I put the 24-inch mat up here, it would still resize it. Okay, so I'm going to go over here on the right-hand side of this Canvas Workspace, and the last icon is Artboard. And if you do not have the upgrade for the Vinyl Autoblade, you will not have this custom ability. Okay, so that's something you would need to purchase to do this. But I run into this quite a bit while I'm crafting, the size thing. So this is why I had always kind of shied away from those SVGs. Okay, so here's my artboard. Right now it says that it's 12 by 12, my mat. That's what an artboard is, it's my mat. I'm going to click on this little down arrow and look, there's custom size for tiling, and that's what we want. So I'm going to click on custom size, and it gives me the option of putting in a size here. And I know that my that design that we brought in was approximately 37 inches. So I'm just going to make it 37 inches square for ease, and type in the word number 37 in both of those width and height. So now my mat is 37 inches square. Okay. Then I'm going to go down here to the bottom, and right now all the little grid that's on here, you can just take the grid off if you want to, but I've been leaving it on to help me in the next step. I go down and I make the grid, instead of 1-inch grids, I make them, the largest you can make them is 2-inch grids. So then there's not so many boxes on the screen. Okay, so now since we know that I've got enough mat to hold that design, I'm going to go ahead and hit my SVG button again now. And remember the warning we got earlier. I'm going to click this. I'm going to go get my little bunny lantern again. And look, there was no warning this time, because this time it's big enough for me to get this on my mat. See, there's a little extra room at the top and the bottom. It's plenty of room side to side. Okay, so the way the tiling part works, and I want to show you this this was what gave me the idea of looking for something like this in my software, is in the Cricut software. Let's go back to the Cricut software for just a minute. With that same design, the Cricut software thinks, oh gosh, now it's going to have to install. Sorry, must have had an update. Okay. I knew they've been doing a lot of updates lately, so it takes a second for it to do it. Okay, so let's go back to that same design. I'm going to go back to the canvas or the design space, and then I'm going to upload that same little design. Well, big design in this case, right? Okay. And I have a Cricut now that I've been using, and it made me think, I wonder if my software will do something like this, because this is one thing I like about the Cricut, is that this huge, great big design has all these pieces. So like this SVG artist, what she does, and this is jennifermaker.com, she puts the entire project and she kind of like spreads it out so you can see all the pieces into one design. So instead of making this into individual mats and putting them in a folder as like 6 designs possibly, she just does one great big design. Because the Cricut software, she's a Cricut artist, her software then, if you go up to make, if I click make and I look at what it does, the software for the Cricut actually mats the design for you. So like that whole great big design comes up then matted by color. So here's the first mat. You can kind of see it on the left. There's one piece. And then like all the yellow pieces, they just put it on mats and put it all together. And you can actually move things around. So like if you want to move things around here, like these 2 items here might fit on another mat, but then they give you, they put it on mats by color. And I thought, well, that's an interesting concept. I wonder if I can figure out a way to do that with my software, because then I could save it as like a design grouping, and then I could send it over to the machine. So what I did, let me just minimize this and we'll bring the other one up. When I didn't realize what tiling was, so I read the instructions. And if you need the instructions for tiling, it's under Help and under Premium Functions, Online Help for Premium Functions, and it's right here, Vinyl Auto Blade. And so I just downloaded that and printed it off to see what it was. And when I saw the pictures in there, it looked like my Cricut software. So what I did then is I need to get this whole design on my big mat here, and I need to kind of split it up into usable sections. Now this is not technically the way this works, the tiling, but this works for what I want it to work for, and it works like the Cricut software then. So what I'm going to do just to help me is I'm going to take my drawing tool, which is over here on the left. It's the path tool, and I'm going to draw a path. I want to have 12-inch increments so I can find them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 boxes. So here's my 12. So I'm just going to click there. I'm just going to draw the lines in so I know approximately where they are. Okay. And then we're going to do that again. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Remember, these are 12 or 2-inch squares. Okay. And then I'm going to do some this way. So let's go 1, get my drawing tool. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm going to draw that across this way. And I'm going to do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that ought to be enough. This is just like placeholders for me to help me know where everything's going to be. Okay. So there are some mats. Those are 12-inch mats on this great big huge one. So then what I can do is I can go take, oh, didn't it go? There it goes. Okay. So now I can take these items and I can split these up onto a mat within the 12-inch area. So I'm just going to mat them. Okay, so maybe these 3, there might even be able to be 4 on here. So let's bring this up. I'm just going to show you how this works. So I just figured this out. This is not technically the way this tiling works. What it's made to do is have one great big design on here and then it splits it into pieces. But it looks like my Cricut matting thing. So that's why I started working with this and made my little mats myself. All right, so let's get this one. And then maybe, let's see if we can bring these up just a little bit. And I'm just going to fiddle around with these. And then this one, maybe we'll turn it. And then it can go down along the bottom here. Like that. Okay. And then let's see. Let's go get one of the little parts of the egg. And maybe the ears. And then I think we could stick one of these little round circle things in here. And maybe this one on this mat. So there's another mat. Okay. And then here's our eggs. Need a couple more of these yet. So let's do this egg and then maybe one more piece of this. And yes, you could put just one. All of these are the same. So like these side things, these long skinny things are actually the same. But I just wanted to have it all on the mats together, all at the same time, so I could just send the design. So we're going to get this on there like that. Okay. And then these 6 items, maybe 3 on 2 different mats. So we'll just do these and move them around. So see, I'm just moving them around. And I can do this all at the same time. So like I said, a lot of the SVG artists must save their designs this way because I found multiple designs this way, not just Jennifer Makers, but I found other designs too as I've been playing around with this. All right, so now let's look and see if this is going to work. So I thought, okay, so I've got all my items in my mat area. And then when I saw the instructions, what they tell you to do is go to Premium and Tiling. And when I did that, this looks like my Cricut mat. Because look what it did. When I moved it around, the items around in the areas that are 12 inches, which I know are 12 inches, okay, then I can actually save these items. So there's a little warning here. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but we're going to take those little straight lines out of there because those may not work as well with the lines in. So I think I'm just going to take the lines out because we know we're pretty close here. So let's just go ahead and delete them and take them out because they're taking up space as well. So I'm just going to take them out just so we don't have any problems here. Give me a second. I'm just clicking on them and hitting delete on my keyboard. Okay, so let's go back up to Premium again and Tiling. And again, you do need to have that update for, okay, so I've got one little spot. Can you see here that I've got a little spot over here with the egg that is on the wrong mat? So we need to fix that a little bit. We just need to scoot it over a little bit. So this one here just needs to go this direction. So let's just scoot it over a little this way, maybe, if I can get my mouse to go. There we go. Scoot the little round thing over too. And now let's try it again. Let's look under premium. So I just went back and forth until I got it all within my matted area. Okay, that looks way better. And see, there's no, you notice that there is no, none of those warning little yellow things that were here earlier. So that looks sort of like my Cricut screen, doesn't it? I just matted it myself. So I'm going to go ahead and title this Bunny Lantern. Oops, maybe if I can spell. Bunny Lantern. Come on, A. Okay, and then I want it to be on 12 by 12. If I wanted to, I could make it on 12 by 24 if I wanted to, and see that then it would fit on 3 mats, but I prefer to cut on a 12 by 12. So I'm just going to use 12 by 12. And I don't want it to overlap. In this case, we don't need it to overlap, okay? And then I'm going to hit the export button at the bottom. Now, the only thing that's different with this one is that you do have to have this in a folder. You have to produce a folder. So I'm just going to make a folder on my, let's go down to my desktop. You can't just send the 6 designs. You need to make a folder. So I'm going to make a new folder on my desktop that says Bunny Lantern. Okay. And then I'm going to, oops, have to hit enter. And then I'm going to select that one and then hit the little button that says select folder. And then it saves it into that folder. And what it did is it saved it into 6 pieces that I can then put on a USB stick. And I could have also saved those back to my USB stick if I wanted to. But I just can't send the 6 items together to the machine because you can only send one thing at a time to the machine via the internet. Okay, so let's go find out that design now on my desktop. So here, where's my folder? New folder. Oh, didn't it save my... Here, where'd it go? I don't know where it went. Saved it on my desktop. Every now and then, have you noticed that Windows does that? That sometimes you go back to look for something. I'll show you on the USB stick the one I did the other day. Every now and then I have to like restart the computer and then the folder shows up. Isn't that the weirdest thing you've ever seen? So here's the USB stick with that bunny lantern, and I just called it the same thing. And I open this up, and then here are FCM files, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different items. And that way it split it up into my pieces so I can put the USB stick, there's the designs, you can probably see them now. And those are on my USB stick so that I could take it over to my machine and I can do the first mat, the second mat, the third mat, the fourth mat, and so on. Okay, so that was the way I figured out how to get around the fact that these designs were so big. They're just it's one project per design. And they all open up that way. So if I go back to the software here really quickly, let's do a new one so you can see. And I'll just open another one that I've done in the past that had the same problem. Oops. Give me new. Okay. All right. So then if I leave this big, or if I go, let's go back to the 12-inch one again, because then you can see that this is the error message that I was always getting. So I go into my SVGs and I go up to my stick and I want to go into, where did it go? Jennifer Maker. Okay. So let's say I want to do my, let's see, I did the Easter edge cards. Let's see, I can't remember which one I was going to do. Maybe the Christmas tree. So, okay, on my Christmas tree. I know it's here. I think it might, was it under C for Christmas? Sometimes I can't find what I'm looking for. Insert cards, Crooked Joy projects, shadow box frames. Oh, we'll just do another of the Easter ones. I'm just not finding it. Must be down further. Okay, so if I go in here again and just pick another one, let's pick one with butterflies. Same thing. It comes up and gives me that warning. And this is what happened to me so often when I was working with SVG files. I just really struggled finding SVG files, and they were all the wrong size. And I didn't know how to take care of it. And until I think the vinyl auto blade upgrade kit that you need to do this. It gave us the blade and the blade holder, which I use all the time. I don't ever cut vinyl with it, but I cut paper with it. And then the software, there was software upgrade, and I didn't have any idea why I would need that software upgrade, but now I totally understand because I started doing more paper crafting. So that's kind of section 2. This was these large designs that SVG artists put into, they put one whole project into one design. And then in this case, she just kind of like spreads it out and makes it a huge design. So she wouldn't have had to do that. She could do like what the next gal does. So the next gal, Crafting with Sarah is her website. And she does craft with Sarah, just craft. And so what she does with hers is I can leave the mat as 12 inches because this is what she does with hers instead. But it would still cause problems just putting this in the scan and cut. So let's get a new page here, and I want to show you that. So let me show you a couple of these things again. I'll show you some of the actual things that I made, and that these were the ones that I was having with those very large designs. So I can just switch over to the camera here for a minute and show you those things that I made. So here's the little bunny lantern. Give me a second, I can turn it on. It has a little light in it. So here's my little bunny lantern. I made these for Easter. So it has a little, some of those little Kimberbell lights in it. And then this little tree is another one of those. And this one's a lot larger. So you can see that one's a pretty good sized item. This one was pretty good size. This is a cool little project that it actually is a little set of flowers and then it folds flat so you can mail it in an envelope. But this one again came in as like, I don't know, 25 inches tall or something because it had a whole bunch of pieces, see. And so I had to figure out, you know, how to get it in there for the size I wanted. So then I had my custom mat that I could open up. So there's that one. And then this one was a little smaller, but it still came in as like, I don't know, it was like 20 some inches tall, like that. So that's another one. So these are the ones that are saved like as large items, and then they're kind of spread out all over the mat. Well, the ones I'm going to show you now are actually, they come in the mat in the 12-inch area, which is great, like all of these, but they come in layered. So if you just tried to cut this with your scan and cut without actually doing anything with it, then you wouldn't be able to cut it because it would just cut all of these layers all in one piece. And like, how would you know that if you didn't open it in software and look at it? So when I looked at the designs, I knew that there were layers here, but the design does not look that way. So I'll bring that in for you in a second here so you can see. All right, so let's go back to the screen here and we'll go back to the software again. And so this one is Sarah's, Craft with Sarah. So I'm going to click that little SVG file again and I'm going to bring it in. Now this time I'm going to leave my 12-inch mat on because I know it's going to be okay. And let's go back into Craft with Sarah. Let me see. Oops, I need to go up another bump, I think. Here we go. Craft with Sarah. Where did she go? She must be down here. Somewhere. Oh, here it is. All right. And then I did this little truck. So let's look at the little truck. 4th of July truck. And then there's the 4th of July eagle. That one might be easier. It has less pieces. So we'll open that one up. And then the other thing that she does that's really cool is that she gives you the instructions here. And I have that one printed out, but I thought I'd just put it up on the screen so you could see it. Get it out here so I can look at it because I'll do an example for you. She gives you this is actually a PDF file, so it came in okay, but but you can see that she gives you the instructions on this. I'll show it to you in a PDF. It's a little easier. But I like that because then she tells you what colors everything's are supposed to be and how you're supposed to put it together. So let me get that and do, where did it go here? Assembly guide, here we go. So she gives you this PDF, and then it tells you what colors each layer is going to be. and how you put it together. So some of them are put together with foam and some put together with glue. And there's all these little layers, okay? So I really like that. So when I bring this in, SVG, and then I'm going to bring in the SVG is right here. It looks like the funny, the funny Microsoft Edge thing. But look at that. It just came in as a big black blob. So if you put this on your stick and put it in your machine, this is the way it would come up. Now, so we know that it's supposed to look like that eagle, right? Well, it's all there. And this is the other reason why I've started using the software on the PC. If you look over on the right-hand side over here and go down, not to the very bottom one, that's our artboard, which we know is 12 by 12, and that's fine. But the next one up here, look, here's all the layers. And for some reason, SVG files come in black. They just come in as black. Okay, so that other piece of paper that I showed you, that layered piece of paper, told me that what color my layers are. So I can go in, and this is how I figured this out. So I went in and I looked at the layers. I can see all the pieces in the layer tab. Okay, so the first layer that's going to be at the back is white. So I'm going to click on that one. I'm going to change the color up here at the top to white. Okay, and then the next layer up is red. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that one over here in the layers. I'm going to go up here to the top and I'm going to make it a red color. Okay, and then the next color is brown. Yeah, it's brown. So this is going to be part of the eagle. So this one here is brown. So I'm going to go click on a brown color. So maybe a lighter brown. Okay, and then I'm going to go up another layer, and this one's going to be a dark brown. And here's the darker brown. So that's like the feathers on the eagle. And then we're going to go up another layer, and this one's going to be royal blue. So we're going to get the blue. So this is how I figured this out, because I would never have figured this out in the machine because I couldn't see the pieces. And then the next one up is part of his beak and head. So this one's actually kind of yellow. So we'll use a yellow. And it's his eye. It's his eye. And then we're going to go up to the next layer, which is white. So, the eagle has to have a white head. So we'll go back and get our white again. And then the next one is part of his face, and it's black. So I'm just going to leave that one black. And then the next one up is gray. So this is part of his, like underneath of his neck. So that's going to be gray. So I'll get a light gray. Okay. And then we got a couple of yellows for, this is the actual beak part. So we're going to do a darker yellow for this one. So maybe a gold. And then the top one is going to be the same yellow as his eyeball. See if I can find the same yellow as his eye. I think I used this one. Okay. So now if I look at this and I can tell in my layers tab that I have all the layers the color I want them. So now what I have to do is, since there are several, and it all fits, as you can see, she does it this way. So it all fits on a 12 by 12 mat. But there was all these layers, and if I had just stuck this SVG into my machine, it would have cut all of this out all at once. And it wouldn't have been right, because then it would have just cut everything up all in one paper. Okay. So then what I'm going to do is on these, I could do them this way. If they fit on the 12 by 12 mat, I can turn off pieces over here. So see the little eyeballs on this line? I can turn these off. Okay. And let's say I just want to send the white pieces. So there's two pieces that are white, the head and that big piece at the back. So I can turn everything else off over here, and I can just get down to the white pieces. You may not be able to see it too well, but it is white. Okay, so there's my white pieces, but they're kind of layered on top of each other. So I'm going to pull them down here so that they would be on, like, say, a 12 by 12 inch piece of paper. Okay, so that they will be able to sit next to each other. And I think I might have had to take his little head and kind of flip it over here so that it would fit down here in this corner. So we'll just say this is going to be a 12 by 12 inch piece of paper. So then all I have to do, and these then I can send wirelessly. So what I did is I went to File, Export, Transfer, FCM File. Okay, the objects that have been set as hidden are not available to export. That's fine, because I don't want those right now. I just want to do the white. So I'm going to click OK. Okay, and then I'm going to send it via the internet. And it's going to transfer over to my machine. And I'm going to bring the camera up here so you can see my machine. I have to wake my machine up just a second because it went to sleep. Okay, so now we have those two items. So if I bring those two items up on the camera here, just go get the camera back for you. Maybe. There we go. Okay, so now if I go up here and I hit retrieve data, and remember we did it via internet, and I bring it up, there's my round, the big back piece, and here's this head down here, and I would just cut those out. I would click OK, and then I would cut them out on my piece of 12 by 12 white paper. Okay, so that's the first layer that we were able to do. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back home. Okay, and then let's go back over here. I'll show you the eagle again so you can see. So the piece that we'd be cutting would be this piece right here, and then this back piece back here. Okay, so then let's go back to the software for a second, and we will do the next layer, and I'll show you how that works. So this is how I figured that I knew that I could work with these using second here, I got to get down to this. Sorry, it shows that funny little thing. Okay. So then I can go in here and I have those two turned on. Well, I don't need those anymore. So I'm going to turn those off as well with the little eyeballs. And then I want to do the red. So see, there's only one thing that's red. So I'm going to go ahead and click that one on. And the one thing that I like about Sarah's stuff is most of her stuff fits on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. So like in this case, I did the first one on a bigger one because I could get all of it, the white on at the same time. But this one then, I would then put on an 8.5 inch piece of paper, and I could go ahead and go File and export this one. I'm going to get that same warning. That's fine. I don't care that the other items are not going over. I'm going to click OK, and then I'm going to transfer it via the internet, and I'll go over and retrieve it and cut it. So I would just continue up my design and turning things off, and the next one is that lighter brown. I would cut out this piece in the lighter brown, and then I would turn it off. I'd send it to the machine, cut it, and then I turn it off, and then I'm going to turn on the next one. That will be the darker brown. So I'll send that one. So see, this is showing you how to use that Layers tab, and this is very, very good. The other thing you can do here is that you can see that there's little knives next to each one of these pieces. These are all cut files. Sometimes though we need to draw something, so then you could change this, like the first one, if we wanted to draw the beak, you could click on that and see it gives you the options of draw, cut, draw, and pierce. I happen to have the piercing premium kit, so that's why it gives me a third piece. You may only have two options instead of 3. Okay, so you just turn on the piece you want to send to the machines. Like the next one we would want to send is the blue piece, and then we would send it, and then we turn it off, and then we go up to the yellow. Now this one, I actually had 2 of the same yellow, so I could turn on that and the beak at the same time. So here's one yellow, and then here's his beak over here. So we want to make sure they're separate. We can see them both, and then we would send them to the machine. Okay, and then we would cut those yellow pieces, and then we would turn them off. Okay, and then we would we already did the white, we don't need that one, so here's the black piece. So we put a piece of black paper on here, and then we would cut that piece of black part that goes for his eye. And then we turn that off, and we'd send the gray. So you can see it does take a little time. You have to send these over one layer at a time, and that works really, really slick. Now if I were to open this up into my Cricut software, and I'll show you that again, this is how I got all these ideas. So the Cricut software is cool because Oops, I think I opened it a second. So again, this one would allow me to mat this. So it's the same kind of same kind of concept, but I have to mat it manually for my scan and cut. So we're just going to take this out, and I could bring in, I think my eagle is here. Let's see. Or maybe here's my eagle. So we'll bring our eagle in. And then it does the same thing here, because see, it looks like it's just one design, but it's actually not. So if I go over on the right, here's all the layers of it. Okay, and if I hit make on my screen and tell it to go onto a mat, then it's going to mat it for me by those colors. So here's, the white and the gray and the browns and the yellows and the blue and so on. So this software gave me the ideas of looking to ways that we could make our scan and cut software work the same way for some of these SVGs. All right, so the last thing I want to show you is I had these cards I wanted to make, and I'll show you the cards here. I really wanted to make these cards, and I just thought they were really pretty, but there was a problem when I opened them up, and most of Sarah's things I haven't had any problems with, but this was something that I hadn't run into. So here's these beautiful cards, and they're layered cards. So there's 3 layers. There's 2 layers here, and then there's one, and then this is the card base. So there was thank you, there was love you, like that, and then this one was happy birthday. So there's happy birthday, and just for you. Okay, so I had these cards, and I thought, oh, I'd really like to make these. I bet these will just be just fine. They'll open up. They'll be in perfect size. Well, guess what? So I opened them up, and give me a second. We'll go back again. I opened them up in my brother's software. So let's go get new again. We don't need to save it. And I'm going to bring open my cards. So I'm going to hit my SVG again to bring these in, and we're going to go back to, let me go back to my stick because it's a little fat. Well, maybe not. They're called flower cards, so I should be able to find them. Flower cards, there you are. Flower cards. So I went to open these up in my SVGs, and let's say we wanted to do our birthday card, and I opened it up, and I looked at the screen, and look how tiny that design is. So let's see how big this is. So if I select the entire thing, and I go over here to the right and click on the second icon down, that's the edit screen, and that has the sizes in there. And and I have no idea why it did this. This was very strange. I've never had one come in like this. So it came in at 1.98 by 2.82, and I thought, well, why would it have done that? The other thing, if you notice, it didn't come in black, which was another strange thing. So I don't know, it could just have something to do with the software that people are using to make their designs. I don't know if that has anything to do with it or not, but it's weird. So I thought this was very strange. Well, this gal is from the UK, and so I assume she probably had made these cards 5x7, because that's usually what they make. And I thought, well, let's just try. So the purplish color here is the whole card base. And so if it's going to be a 5x7 card, and they were kind of horizontal instead of vertical, that's going to be 10 inches. So I thought, well, let's just go over here and we'll try the height at 10 inches. And then hit tab. And I have my maintain aspect ratio turned on. And look, the width is 7. So I don't know why it came in that way, but obviously it was a little too small. There's no way that was ever going to cut, because just look at the detail in the actual card. So there's 3 layers here again. So if you go to the layers tab over here and look at the layers, again, the same thing. Then I could just turn off my layers, and I could send just the card base to the machine and cut it out. And then I could turn that one off, and I could go to the next layer. And then this was white. I made this in white. Okay, so this is the background layer. And then the top layer is the happy birthday part. And I just sent those over each piece, one piece at a time, file, and then export. and then I just sent them over one color at a time. So I've been, like I said, I've been playing with this a lot the last few weeks, and I just wanted to make sure that you don't be afraid to try SVGs. You may run into some little speed bumps, which I have, but I've just slowly, and hopefully this will tell you what to do. But if you get that upgrade, you'll really need to get the upgrade if you need to do a lot of manipulating with especially the larger designs that are coming in. This one, of course, was not too big. I've done real well with Sarah's items because all of hers, almost all, I can't say all, but a lot of them fit on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. So they fit easily within the 12 by 12 mat. So let me show you a couple more things that I've made, and then we'll be done. And I hope this helped you a little bit, not to be afraid of SVGs. I hope that my, playing around in the software here has helped you to realize that it's not impossible to do this. I really struggled when I first got my scan and cut working with these files, and it's been so fun. So here's my cards. I think I showed you the cards. Here's I love this little truck. This was all done in layers too. You can see there's a whole bunch of layers. I think there was about 12 layers on this one. So isn't that cool? I just made some things for 4th of July. And then this mandala, I think there were 12 layers on this one as well. And I just sent them over one layer at a time because like each layer was a different color. Like there's two purples, 2 yellows, 2 blues, 2 greens. So I just sent them over each separately. And then I also made this shadow box. I haven't got the shadow box done, I'm sorry. But I made this shadow box too. And there's about, I don't remember how many layers there were in here, like 8 layers. And so it was all those different sizes. And then you put some foam, you can see there's some foam squares in there to give it dimension and see how the flowers look. They're all in different layers and everything. So I have to get a shadow box to put that in, but I thought it was kind of neat. So that was another one. This one fit on a 12 by 12 mat very easily as well. I think it's about 8 by 8. So I didn't have any trouble with this one either. So just be aware though that there's some free software that you can open up some of these designs that if you get that error that it says that it's too big, you can you can open up in the Cricut software. You can just go download Cricut's Design Space is what it's called. You can go download that for free. If some of you have the Dime Perfect Embroidery Pro software, this embroidery tool shed or the Perfect Embroidery software, you can open up SVGs and FCMs in there as well, and they will open them up as one big design. So that's another way. If you already have that software, you don't have to go get the Cricut software. I just happen to have it because I have a Cricut as well. And but I also open them up in my tool shed just to see how big they are. If you get that error message, just open them up in something else to see how big it actually is so you can make your custom mat in Canvas Workspace. And that works really well, but you do need to have that, don't forget, you need to have that upgrade. And so I'll put the upgrade in the description below. I'll put the link to it because I have that at the store. And they have 2 different ones. You can either get the one with Disney or the one without Disney. The one without Disney is a little less. I got the Disney one because I have a Disney machine. So I kind of wanted that. But my moral to this story is don't be afraid to try SVG files. You will need to open them up in your software to help you work with them. Work with the layers like we did here, okay, and like we did with the other ones. Maybe use the tiling function if it's too big. If it's a very large design, you can open it up. You can make a custom mat, and then you can manipulate it and send it as multiple mats, maybe 8 or 10 mats you may have to make. But I've been learning as I've been going because I've enjoyed working with some of these new things just to do some crafting. And so I hope this helped you. I enjoyed doing this for the people at the store this last week, and I wanted to do a video of it for you too, so you saw what we did in the class. So if you enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate it on YouTube. And I would also love to have you subscribe to my channel if you already haven't subscribed. It's completely free. It doesn't cost you anything to subscribe, but it will give you notifications when I have new content up or new videos up, so you'll get notifications saying that I have such new things up, and you can go watch new projects. So thank you so much for joining me, and I hope this helped you a little bit with SVGs and the scan and cut. So there, I'm still learning, and if I find more fun, cool things about the software that I can do, I will let you know. So I've been working on this for about a month or 6 weeks now, and it's been a lot of fun. So thanks so much, everybody, and have a great day.